Just before dawn, on a rainy Monday morning in Texas, security cameras inside a church captured something that still does not look real. A figure in what appeared to be police tactical gear moved slowly through an empty hallway, opening doors, looking into rooms, breaking glass, carrying tools, not running, not panicking, just wandering through the building with this eerie, almost casual calm. A short time later, 45-year-old fitness instructor Missy Bevers arrived at the same church to set up her 5 a.m. class. She never made it out alive. Police believe the person on that surveillance video is her killer, and nearly a decade later, the case remains unsolved. And this is what makes this case so unnerving, because in a lot of murder cases, the mystery starts after the crime. In this one, the mystery was already there, wandering the hallways before the victim even arrived. This is the story of Missy Bevers and the killer in the church hallway. Missy was a wife, a mother of 3, and a fitness instructor in Midlothian, Texas. She taught Camp Gladiator classes, the kind of early morning group workouts that require energy most people do not even have before sunrise. At the time of her death, those who knew her remembered her as active, social, and committed to the people in her life. And that matters, because before this became one of the most haunting, unsolved mysteries in Texas, Missy was just getting ready for work. That is the detail that gives this case its weight. She was not walking into some obviously dangerous situation. She was going to a church in the early morning to teach a fitness class. That is such a normal sentence, such an ordinary routine, and somehow, inside that ordinary routine, something monstrous was already waiting. On April 18, 2016, Missy was scheduled to hold an early class at the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian. Because of stormy weather, the class was expected to be held indoors rather than outside. So while most of the town was still asleep, and while rain moved through the area, Missy headed to church to get everything ready before her students arrived. Now this case works almost too well as audio storytelling because the setting itself does so much work. Think about it. A church before dawn, rain outside, long, quiet hallways, offices and classrooms with lights low, no congregation, no music, no voices, just the hum of an empty building and a person who should not have been there. Investigators later reviewed the church surveillance system and found footage from inside the building. The exterior cameras were reportedly not functioning that day, but the interior cameras were. What they captured would make this case famous far beyond Midlothian. The footage appears to show an unknown person dressed in what looked like police or tactical gear walking through the church hallways shortly before Missy was killed. The figure can be seen opening doors, moving through the building, and breaking glass. Police have said they believe this person is the killer. That is such a terrifying detail, because this was not some blurry after-the-fact glimpse of a suspect running away. This was the person before the murder, inside, alone, already moving through the church as if they had time. And the footage raised immediate questions. Was this a person trying to stage a burglary? Were they waiting for Missy? Did they know her class schedule? Did they know she would be there early and likely alone? Those questions have hovered over the case from the beginning, and the investigators have never publicly announced a definitive answer. Missy arrived at the church a little after 4 a.m. Her students began arriving not long after 5, and one of them discovered that something was terribly wrong inside. Emergency services were called, but Missy was pronounced dead. There is a very particular kind of dread in cases like this, because for Missy's students, that morning probably began like any other morning class. You wake up early, you throw on your workout clothes, maybe you're still half asleep. Maybe you are annoyed you agreed to go to a 5 a.m. class in the first place. And then you walk into a church expecting exercise and routine, and instead you step into a crime scene. Authorities later said Missy suffered puncture wounds to the head and chest. Reporting based on the police documents stated that her injuries were consistent with tools the suspect was seen carrying in the church footage, though investigators have not publicly released every detail of the weapon. A hammer was also found near her body, but police did not publicly confirm it as the weapon. And this is where the case becomes deeply unsettling in a different way. Because once you understand the timeline, it begins to feel less like a chance encounter and more like a setup. The killer was already inside, Missy arrived alone, and somewhere inside that dark building, the two crossed paths. The blank space in the story, the missing moment, is one of the reasons this case lingers. We know the building, we know the footage, we know Missy arrived, we know she was killed before class began. But the exact moment where an ordinary workday turned into murder is still hidden from public view. If you have ever seen the surveillance video from this case, you already know why people can't stop talking about it. The figure does not move the way you expect a killer to move. There's no frantic energy, no dramatic sprint. The person just drifts through the hallways in heavy-looking gear, opening doors and peering into spaces as though they belong there. And then there is the gait. For years, people obsessed over the way this person walked. The stride looks unusual. Some thought it suggested a woman. Others thought it suggested an injury. In 2021, reporting on this case noted that the FBI had consulted a forensic podiatrist to study the suspect's gait, and the expert concluded that gender cannot be determined from the walk alone, especially given the weight of the gear. That matters because one of the most frustrating things about this case is how much it seems to give you and how little it actually gives you. You have video, you have movement, you have clothing, behavior, and yet the single thing everybody wants, a clear identity, is still missing. There is also something psychologically disturbing about the footage itself. The person does not appear rushed. They appear comfortable in that emptiness. And when someone looks comfortable in a place where they absolutely should not be, that's just planning. Then there is the car. In May of 2016, Midlothian police released info about the vehicle of interest captured on surveillance video near the church. Police said it appeared consistent with a 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima, an Infiniti G37, or a similar vehicle, and noted an oval sticker on the bumper. The vehicle was seen driving slowly in the parking lot of a nearby sporting goods store in the early morning before the murder, turning its lights off and on, and then parking briefly before leaving. Police said at the time that the owner was not necessarily a suspect, but investigators want to identify and speak with that person. That detail feels small at first. A car in the parking lot, early in the morning, nothing dramatic. But then you watch the footage, and the behavior starts to feel odd. Slow movement, lights flicking on and off, a brief stop, then gone. It becomes one more thing in this case that feels almost meaningful enough to solve it, but just not quite. And as far as public reporting has shown, the driver has never been definitely linked to the murder or ruled out in any way the public can rely on. It remains one of the loose pieces that continues to bother people who follow the case. Early on, one obvious question was whether Missy had interrupted a burglary. After all, the suspect was caught on camera opening doors and breaking glass. On the surface, it looks like someone prowling through a building looking for something. But investigators later indicated there were reasons to doubt a simple burglary motive. Public reporting has said nothing appeared to be missing from the church, and some investigators came to believe the scene may have been staged to look like a burglary gone wrong. That theory is important because it changes the emotional center of the case. If this was a random burglary interrupted at the wrong moment, then Missy's death was a horrible collision of bad timing. But if the burglary appearance was staged, then the killer may have come there for her. And that is where the case gets darker, because targeting implies knowledge of the location, of the time, knowledge that Missy would be arriving in the dark before the class, possibly alone. That possibility has been widely discussed in reporting, though police have never publicly given a final motive. The second major theory is that the killer knew Missy's schedule, or at least knew enough about her routine to predict where she would be. This is not a wild leap. She taught scheduled fitness classes, and at least some of the details about those classes was public knowledge to the participants and followers. Reporting at the Times also said they were looking into Missy's phone and social media activity, and one report cited documents indicating the police were trying to build an electronic footprint tied to the suspect. This theory does not require the killer to be a close friend or family member. It only requires access. Access to her schedule, her movements, access to the fact that on one rainy Monday morning, she would be inside that church before anyone else got there. That possibility remains plausible based on the timeline, though it is still only a theory. And to me, this is one of the most chilling parts of the story, because it means this case may not be a wild coincidence at all. It may be someone who waited for the right morning. Another reason this case has fascinated people is the outfit. The suspect's clothing did more than conceal identity. It may have also distorted the suspect's body shape, movement, and even perceived gender. That is why the public arguments over whether the person in the footage is male or female have never gone away. Investigators have consistently avoided making a definitive public call based on the walk or body alone. So one theory is that the outfit itself was part of the strategy. Not just a disguise for the cameras, but a disguise for memory. If anyone saw the suspect from a distance, they would remember the gear. If anyone watched the footage, they would focus on the limp. If anyone tried to guess the gender, age, or build, they would probably be guessing through layers of costume and equipment. It is a smart kind of concealment. Not invisibility, but confusion. And confusion can last a very long time. Cases like this can sometimes get swallowed by the mystery. The footage becomes famous, the theories multiply, the internet dissects every frame, and somewhere in all of that, the victim can start to disappear behind the puzzle. But Missy Bevers was not a puzzle. She was a real person with family, students, friends, with a life that existed well before the case became internet shorthand for the church video. Public reporting and anniversary coverage have repeatedly centered on her loved ones and the people who still gather to remember her. That is what gives this case its emotional force. Not just the surveillance is creepy, not just the suspect is unidentified, but the woman left home to teach a workout class and never came back. And for the people who knew her, the mystery is not some interesting thought exercise. It is unfinished grief, year after year, anniversary after anniversary. A case everybody recognized, and still no answer. Sometimes the detail that solves a case does not look dramatic. It is not always a confession. Sometimes it's a strange car, a familiar walk, a story that changed after the murder hit the news. Something small enough to ignore until it is the thing that matters most. There are some cases that stay with people because they are bloody, some because they are baffling, and some because they feel like a nightmare someone accidentally recorded. This is one of those cases, because before Missy was ever found, before her students arrived, before police tape headlines and theories, there was a figure already inside that church, walking, waiting, moving through the hallways like the building belonged to them. And nearly all these years later, we still do not know whether that person was hiding behind a limp, behind the gear, behind a staged burglary, or behind a plan that was more personal than anyone wants to imagine. Those remain theories, not conclusions. What we do know is that on a dark, rainy morning in Midlothian, Texas, Missy Bevers walked into that church to teach a class. And someone was already there.